Going
Doing it.
live right now, like
Okay,
absolutely
good,
right
good.
now.
Okay.
So,
I'll
hey
text you.
everybody. I'm sorry. Here, I'll open that up because
Okay.
we have had all the issues today, you guys, and I think I can see people are coming up. So
Yay.
I'm going to look at some of the chat over here. Um, ooh, and also, I need to make sure this is not playing over here. Okay. Yay, everybody. Okay, can you come in a
Yay!
little bit to
I'm
center,
in.
please?
I'm in.
All right. And I'm going to look and see what Lisa is saying to me. So it's alive, and it's been kind of, a hot mess. So getting in here has been very interesting. Okay, yeah, I figured, and you have to go at 2:30. So we're going to not go longer than 2:30 Eastern Standard Time today. And because Lisa has things to do, places to be, and she's super
Yes.
cool like that.
I don't know about that. I'm trying. I want to be Kathy Hester when I grow up. I'm trying to make it happen.
I don't know if you can deal with being that cranky sometimes, can you?
Oh, we should talk.
Well, we just took a walk, and so that was really kind of nice. And
Yeah.
we're trying to do this new thing so that we can use headphones with the interviews. And the thing that we bought just doesn't work. So every time we try,
It worked once.
this is why I've been cranky. And so we try, and then we end up splitting AirPods like we are now. And so I'm already discombobulated from that.
Have you
And
talked
then
to your guy? Your eCam
not
guy?
yet. He's got a lot of stuff
He's the one
going
that told us to buy that.
that it was
So
gonna work. So it's probably something. I can't say it's something we're doing because Cheryl's setting it up. That is not of my zone of genius.
Yes.
It
I
is my
understand
zone of
completely.
irritation. Is what that is. And then so Lisa, when Lisa was coming in, it was coming in blank. That's why what we've been working on for a few minutes too. And so I'm sure David will tell you, but so because he put it on eCam virtual cam to test something, and you didn't have eCam on, so it doesn't allow any access to a camera. So we figured
So
it all out.
it was my tech guy's fault.
That's how I feel about the sound. Because we keep doing. Also, it keeps not working, and it keeps being 10 minutes before we get on that we're trying to get it together because we've been
Hmm.
kind of busy. How about you? And hey, everybody, CJ's late joining. You are just right on time. Is all I have to say. And I'm gonna look through some of the comments because you guys were talking, and I got in on. Just to tell you guys that things were happening and we weren't just blowing you off basically, but like Apple's here, Mona, Justine, Barbara, Delia, Betsy, Jane. Oh, Jane says my whole system crashed the other day and I had to get a new one. Tech issues happen. Thank you for
Thank you.
understanding. Um, oh, this is awesome. Apple said we're standing by. I see this time is mingling in the lobby before the show.
I love it. And I was in the green room.
I know, and I'm like, where is the green room? Because it doesn't exist. No one's ever been in the green room for me before.
I feel so special.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Mary Ellen. Okay, I think we got everybody. Yeah, and Cheryl is calm and always smiling. And
It's
that
On
so
the
true.
outside.
and it
You're
does
so
not make me feel
grounded.
better.
See, Kathy and I need grounded partners like you and David who can, sort of don't let us ruffle your feathers too much.
Oh, she's been ruffling my feathers pretty good.
Well, you
So
don't react, I should say. You may be feeling it inside, but you're very good at managing us when we get flustered.
well, I mean,
There's nothing you can do.
there's really not anything I can do about it. It's a device that's supposed to be able to sync two sets of AirPods, and every time we go to open up the second set of AirPods, it cuts out the sound from the first one. So I'm like,
You know what?
So-
Wait, you know what this is making me think of? I have to share this.
Okay.
I read something. I can't remember who it was. It might have been a comedian. It might have been something I saw. But you know how like we get so irritated when we have to take a flight and it's delayed and then we sit on the runway and then it's crowded and we've just so many problems flying, right? but this person pointed out, like, you're on a vehicle in the air and you're traveling across the country, and it's like this miraculous thing, but we get so like caught up in the, like, we're so frustrated because we just sort of take it for like, we should, this shouldn't be happening. And it's kind of like that way with technology. I mean, think about like 20 years ago, like who thought we'd be doing any of this? And so we get so frustrated when it doesn't work, but it's like, it's pretty miraculous when you think about that this is happening, right?
It's true, and I'm going to go change because I feel like we should be leaning off of the screen. I think I must have knocked the camera.
It makes her crazy when the stuff is not like the horizon is not perfectly level.
Look at that. That's a huge difference.
It makes her crazy.
And so the camera is on a tripod behind the counter. And there's an office chair right behind there. So I kind of bounce back and forth like I'm in a pinball situation.
The equipment is taking up more and more space, it feels like, in that room. Doesn't it feel that way?
Yeah. That's so funny. Well, I'm sort of like trying all this out, and you can't even walk in my kitchen because David's got it.
And it's nicer to have everything set up, and in general, it works well.
Yeah.
I think every few years, we just need to take everything down, reset everything, and recalibrate everything. And I think that's what we're getting ready to do. Yeah. And I'm not looking forward to it. So what should we talk about today? Sounds like, are you frustrated in other areas too?
Well, no, I actually think it's a good idea to check in with everyone because yesterday I went to Target, had to pick up some things, and I was jolted into the reality of the holidays because Christmas music was playing. And it was just, I was like bombarded with Christmas themed things. And, I am very blessed that I've got a partner who's healthy and our son and my mom is still alive. And, but even with all that, I had this moment of like, not melancholy, but like emotion came up for me, and it got me thinking about, like we've talked about briefly, this time of year being hard for a lot of people. And so I think that that's something we couldn't talk about if anybody, needs support, because I imagine that a lot of people need support right now. I'm on a lot of social media groups that have, plant-based and vegan, and a lot of people are asking, is there a Friendsgiving, happening, because they're alone and they want to be in community. And it's so important to have some kind of support this time of year. And I'm like, I want to host a Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, just so I can have people have a place to go, but we can't host because I'm actually going to help my friend host hers. So hopefully some people will be able to join us there. But anyway, so I was just thinking, it got me thinking about, like, I really want us to be a support for our community right now.
I think that's great. And if anybody has some questions or concerns or about the holidays in general, about food, about looking for where some stuff might be happening, I know if you're in my area of the world, there's like the Triangle Vegetarian Society does a vegan Thanksgiving. Now it sells out. But there's some other places. There's a lot of vegan takeout as far as food goes and things like that.
Yes.
And we're going to go live on Thanksgiving. I'm trying to decide what time. And this afternoon, I'm meeting with my friends that we're doing Thanksgiving with. So I figured we would do before. So we might do it around 2 or 3. So I don't know if you, because Lisa, you were talking about maybe coming on. It depends if you're committing to a big Friendsgiving.
We're going to be at a Friendsgiving, but there's no reason why I couldn't pop on. I think that's part of it. Like, I can just go in another room or in the backyard and just say, hey, because it doesn't, that's the whole idea of Friendsgiving, is having a place for people to go who don't have a big family gathering, right? So let's all meet up for, even if it's just for a few minutes. I think for me, it's so important for our mental health and our physical health to have some support, to have some sense of community. And that doesn't have to mean 10 people. It can mean one person. I think, just making sure that everybody's knows that they have a support, and there's no shame in having that support be this group, or someone you talk to on the phone. It doesn't have to be a gathering that you go to, but it's just really important to have support.
I do. I agree with you completely too. And it's possible once I dehydrate all the things. I'm filming for my dehydrator class on Saturday, so literally like I had 4 dehydrators going yesterday, so I feel like I'm a little crazy. But like, what maybe we'll even. I was thinking the night before, as I'm prepping some of the food, I might pop on, and I might pop on a couple, like in the morning when I'm making stuff, and then right before I bring it over. But just to say hi to everyone, because I think it can go one of two ways. Either you feel lonely and like you don't have anyone, or in past years I felt like overcommitted. And
Oh,
like
needed
all I wanted to.
alone time. That's very real. Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting too. So like if you got like I remember a time when I was in New Orleans, I used to always come and visit my friends here in Durham, North Carolina. And I was like, yeah, I can't go. And then everybody was like, are you going to be here? Are you going to be here? Because like I was invited to a lot of friends' houses, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I might go to North Carolina. And I just remember, don't answer the door. Don't go to the door. And
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think
That's
with
true.
everything, like what you're saying, we've gone to some stores too, and hearing the Christmas music, and see, the Christmas stuff was out like before Halloween happened.
Oh yeah, I think I went to Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those big box stores, and they had all of it. They had Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas everywhere all at once.
And it does make you feel like, oh, I should be doing these things,
Right.
right? And I think sometimes I just want to take take the end of the year off.
Hmm.
Usually I take the last 2 weeks of December. I kind of try to schedule my classes before that. And then
Hmm.
I in the past I've not scheduled things for the last 2 weeks of December and the first 2 weeks of January. But I
Smart.
Yeah, and I go back and forth. Like things like this are a lot easier. And I don't know if you guys can hear all the backing up and all the dog, but evidently it's delivery day here at
Apparently.
the Hester Purser household.
This will be the 4th one, I think, in the
Yes.
past 30 minutes.
So many
Yeah.
apologies to you guys, but because I think it's very interesting because I rarely feel centered. Like, ooh, this is my time. I'm so happy about this. Um, and I can think of sometimes when I felt lonely, but I rarely feel lonely around the holidays. That's just my personality. Like, Cheryl went to her parents by herself when I had to do editing for a book. And she was really wrestling with this. Like, it was just paining her to leave me on Christmas. And I was like,
Mm.
whole house by myself. Because I love to watch all these silly Christmas movies, and I like watch ridiculousness. And I was just going to sit around in my pajamas, and at that point probably eat popcorn for dinner and like just live my
That's so
best
funny. I
single.
can totally relate. Like I miss David when he's away, but I do the same thing. I watch every single chick flick that he's not interested in, and I make my super simple, uncomplicated whatever it is I want to eat. So yeah, I get it.
Right, and it's kind of nice. And I was teasing her because it was like Christmas or something, and I'm like, oh, it's okay that you left me for Christmas. And I said it just like that, which is the most I don't talk like that. And she was like, are you really upset? And I was like, oh no, not even remotely upset.
I
And
think that, yeah, I mean, I think that that's a great point that, those of us who are highly sensitive, definitely, which is probably all of us here, are very sensitive to others suffering, but we're also very sensitive to overstimulation. But I think the main thing is like it just feels like a lot of pressure as soon as you go out into retail areas for which are hard to avoid when you need to go get toilet paper or something. And so where it's just like feels like a lot of pressure that you like, even if you have chosen to be like, I don't need to buy into all this. I'm just going to be quiet and do what I want. There's just like this pressure to engage, right? To spend money ultimately is what it comes down to, right? Buy our
Absolutely.
products, then it'll satisfy all your holiday needs or whatever. And
And
we don't have to do that.
right, and we were talking about the anxiety that we get sometimes around Black Friday.
Me work like my little neurodivergent brain. It just oh, and the thing is also it used to be just some things, right? So I'd be like, okay, I'll get a new appliance. That's back when I didn't have 8 milk makers and all that stuff. So oh, I'll get a new toy to play with, and I don't feel like that. But a lot of the tools I use for my business are on sale on Black Friday. So I have to actually go through and compare the two. Is it better this year? Should I let that go? And ultimately, what my coach said this time is just let it go. Pay the extra $100. Don't look at all the things because I get into this decision paralysis.
Mm,
And
I'm
it seems
familiar.
so simple with me telling you this now. But it really is like my brain is like lighting up like pinball machine. It's going, what about this? What about that? Oh, now I need to see, is that one on sale too that I've got to compare it with? And how many
Right.
hours do I have? And oh, are my favorite pajamas on sale now too?
And
Like,
then ultimately you'll forget one to go back and look at something, and you'll have the tab saved or something like that, and then you'll panic because then you'll think you missed it, and then you'll be mad at yourself because you thought you missed it, kind of thing. And
it's so I'm going to be working hard personally as far as like that's where I get in. Like before Cheryl and I met, I was like Black Friday was just stupid is how I felt. And so then she like her mom really likes the art of getting the sale. So she would go out and then I'd be like then it was a thing we would do every once in a while. We'd get up at 4, we'd look at the things and I like here's the Black Friday stuff. We would go to Joann's craft store and I would get like yarn. Like so it wasn't like we weren't sitting outside waiting for the big screen TVs, but if there's something little that I could get and use all year and it was a little fun thing and
oh,
then
that one year when we went to Walmart, like because they had those Rubbermaid
Made.
storage containers, like super cheap. That was,
and so
and we got there
Were you,
early, and everybody
did
was
you
like
wear
walking around.
did you have to wear boxing gloves?
No, but it was funny because the Walmart was open 24 hours, but they wouldn't let you get that stuff until midnight. It was like midnight it
and so
started.
we were like, oh,
So you're just
nobody's
like,
going to be there at midnight.
right? So and
But
everybody's
aren't those
roaming
the
around the
videos you
store.
see? Those are the videos you see in the news and on social media of people like just like killing, like climbing over
Yeah.
each other. Like they're
Yeah.
people get crazy.
It
Did
kind
you
of got a little
experience that?
crazy.
That
Well,
that was our craziest, but it wasn't
yeah.
like the videos at all.
No.
Like I don't like crowds. I don't like lots of noise. Like and
Hmm.
I'm worse now or maybe more aware now. Maybe it's not worse. It's just I'm like, "Oh, this is how I am and I can act accordingly." Whereas before I was like, "One day I'll be good with this." Right? When you're young and you think, "Oh, when I grow up, the noises won't bother me." No, they're going to be worse. And
Yeah.
so but that's one of the things that gets me nervous. And now, like last year, they started doing the week before. This year, they've started all month long.
Yeah.
All
They
month
started
long
November
already,
1st.
Black Friday.
We went to Costco on October 31st, and they were already showing some Black Friday items that were going to start on sale the next day. And there were so many people at the Costco. Like it was a Tuesday, y'all, and it looked like it was Saturday afternoon in there.
And
It was crazy.
yeah, I didn't get hit by a cart as per usual. I won't go to Costco on the weekend because someone is going to hit me with a cart. And it's
Well, I
not
had
like
to go
I'm
to
just
Trader Joe's. I had to go to Trader Joe's yesterday, and we had our neighbor's car, and the line of cars just to get into the parking lot. I almost didn't go, but I did. I'm like, I'll just sit here. I'm not in a hurry, you know. And it was so crazy in there. And I asked the checkout guy, I'm like, is it like Thanksgiving isn't even this week? Like it feels like this Thursday today is Thanksgiving. I'm like, is it always like this? And yeah, and he just told me about like, last year, particularly since the pandemic with all these, different, first there was, problems with the inventory and then, last year they were crazy with people coming in and buying eggs because they were the only ones who had eggs, and that it's just gotten more and more crazy just around the holidays. Because I'm like, it's like we're over a week out. Why is it like
Right.
this?
And it does feel like, like everything rises, this kind of stress, pressure. Because
Hmm.
we're not going to do like, I'm going to make whatever I want. So I have a
Hmm.
few ideas of some things, and we'll probably but like Trader Joe's isn't having their vegan loaf this year.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if you
I
guys know
know.
that.
I always made that. That's
And
such a
so,
great backup.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and they would always have it. So one of the things I may do today is actually get a tofurkey for Cheryl, because Cheryl loves a tofurkey, and
I
she
do.
she in the big clean out of 2023 of the freezer, she was like, it has oil in it, it's out. When we were, during the week where we were being, get everything out of the house. But I don't see anything wrong with her having some tofurkey once a year or
Not
something
at
like
all. Like,
that.
are you gonna? It's probably the only time of year you're gonna have tofurkey. Like, you probably don't have
Right.
tofurkey in a month from now. But it's funny about tofurkey. I really love to support the company. I love the company, their values. Just like they're the OG, and I really like to support them as much as possible. And I think I told you this last time, the Wheatsville Co-op in Austin. When I made tofurkey, I was like, it's good, but then they came out with Gardein and the Trader Joe's, which just had a little bit more, moisture and stuff. But the way that Wheatsville does it is so good. They roast it, they slice it, and they float it in the gravy. So when you go to the hot bar and you take it, you're getting the sliced tofurkey. So the last time I made tofurkey, I did that. Like, I served it in a big pot, sliced in the gravy, and it was so good. I'm just throwing that out there because I think it's better that way. More
Get the
flavor.
extra gravy containers.
Well, we got you some extra gravy. I think at Ross's
It's
and
really
Home
good like that.
Goods, they've got, the Primal Foods. Everything isn't vegan from Primal Foods, and this is certainly not no oil, but they have
Hmm.
cashew mushroom gravy. And usually those little jars are like $9, but it's like $4 or something at Ross's or Home Goods or
Yeah,
TJ
yeah.
Maxx. So take a look when you go if
Mhm.
you're doing something special. It's real easy to make gravy too, but
Gravy's so simple. Yeah.
if you don't feel like doing it, and this is with so many things, especially at the holidays. I feel like if you're a person who cooks X amount, like Cheryl cooks X amount, and she's really pushing those boundaries, but she's not gonna make gravy. Like, it kills me. We buy gravy packets just for her so she can have it, because that's what she really wants to have in the house. And then usually goes, I want some gravy, and I go make gravy. But it's important for her
Well,
to have those.
listen, lady, you make bouillon from scratch. So I suggest you make some packets of gravy for her.
I have white gravy. I have white
Okay.
gravy.
I don't want white
She
gravy.
wants brown gravy, and I have not done a brown gravy, and yes, I will. I will. I
Okay.
promise you.
Like, I don't want to hear this from you, Kathy Esther, who makes bouillon from scratch.
Well, I do have, like, I have some other things I make for scratch, but I make a white gravy and I make a golden gravy. And the golden gravy, I think both of those are on healthyslowcooking.com. It's just dry mixes with oats as a base. And you just, I'm like, let me see.
I'm sure you've been asked to sell them,
Oh yeah.
to start a
I know
retail
it's not
line.
a golden gravy, y'all, but I do have, this is my
If you
cheese
had a
powder.
retail line, they'd be flying off the shelves right now. What's up?
And this is my white gravy. Look, I got it in an old-fashioned container too, but this is the
That
white
is
gravy.
fantastic. So
I
there you
love,
go.
yeah, but I do need to make more gold. So I tend to make more chickeny gravy for things like soy curls and stuff. So I'm not a prime brown gravy person, but I will make that. Now, I do have one anti-venom has a couple of things. So first, have you ever dehydrated your bouillon recipe? So I have a dry bouillon recipe separate. And yes, Marilyn did it this past week. She actually made my bouillon, smeared it around, dried it, and cut it into little diamond shapes so she can even save it longer than a year. She is my dehydrator guru, and any mistakes I make in the dehydrator class are solely my own and not hers. She probably told me to do it better, but like, um, But so you can do that. And she was also saying, my job just told us that we're no longer able to take time off during the holidays. It's the only time I get to see my son. The holidays are already so hard for me, and that's her gripe for the day. And you totally get to feel all that. And
Yes.
she also says the Black Friday sales are legit. I feel your pain. Like it.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that because I worked for Whole Foods for over 6 years, and I remember I hadn't like punched a clock for many, many years, and suddenly I had this job where I couldn't just do what I wanted. I had to ask permission. And I remember that we were, if there was one person I worked with, and you had to put in a request to take time off, even at Christmas time. And there was one person who always had her request in way before me, the exact same dates. In fact, every year in July for my anniversary, she had something she liked to do with her family, and she would always get her request in before mine. And she didn't care that it was my anniversary. She would always just put her request in so she could get her time off. So it created some animosity toward each other. It was kind of a bummer that they did that. They should have just let everybody have time off. But it's a business, and they need to have people there running the show so they can make money. But yeah, I really, it was hard not being, because I got very melancholy if I couldn't take off to go see my mom at Christmas time. I mean, my mom's 85. I'm not going to have that many more Christmases with her. So that was very hard for me. So I want to relate to the person who said that. I think that sucks, and I think she should have time off to go see her son. But what I did with my mom is actually traveling is a lot cheaper if you're not going at Christmas and Thanksgiving. So we would go to Thanksgiving like the week before and celebrate it then. And we do that at Christmas time too. We usually go like the beginning or mid December to celebrate Christmas with my mom.
We tend to do that too. So, like, we're going to be going early December. And of course,
Hmm.
because I scheduled my classes for November and December, like, I didn't even put up my classes till like November 10th, um, because I've just been so discombobulated. But every time I go early, I've scheduled on something else. So I'm going to have to change one of the December dates because we're actually going to Florida. It's always that, or because there's a concert or something.
But she always schedules stuff on my birthday.
This time I didn't. Chef AJ
Yeah,
did.
Chef
Chef
AJ did
AJ's
this time.
bundle is over Cheryl's birthday, so I don't know if I'll. We'll see what I can do. Maybe there'll be.
You can do whatever you want. You know it's not that big a deal anymore. I'm like, it's
Aw.
funny. It's funny. So we'll do something afterwards.
But
It's no
also,
big deal.
she does get stuff around there, or like, so something happens.
Maybe
So that way
your bundle offering should be like birthday treats.
I know. I've got to decide what I'm putting in the bundle. So we've got some Bullion talk. And golden gravy. Mona says she's making my golden gravy today, and you can get that golden gravy mix recipe on healthyslowcooking.com. And she wants to know what she can use in place of coriander. Just leave it out.
Yeah.
Just leave it out. I put things in there I really like, and I love coriander. I love marjoram, and those are a little bit unusual herbs and spices.
I love marjoram. Marjoram's one of my favorites. I love it.
It is too.
I like coriander too. To me, that's a more exotic spice to have in a blend. I like that. But I could see where if you don't like coriander, yeah, you would want to leave it out. It's almost like what's it? Well, it's the cilantro seed. So and that's
Right.
a
But it doesn't
super
taste like cilantro at
It
all.
doesn't. It doesn't. But what I find interesting is that people either love or hate cilantro. It's that super taster thing. So it's interesting that I hadn't thought about that. People could be like that with coriander, and it's the same plant.
And so with coriander and marjoram both, they both have these really beautiful floral upper
Hmm.
notes of them. So we
Yes.
still have those darker coriander has a
Hmm.
little bit of spice, and coriander and cumin just make this
Mm.
beautiful blend for Indian food, but I use them
Hmm.
also in like tacos. So they go together, and they blend well with others. Um, Justine saying, how does the taste differ between the bouillon you freeze and your dry bouillon? Okay, so the bouillon that I freeze is onion, carrot, celery, thyme, cooked, pureed with nutritional yeast. The dry bouillon is a lot of nutritional yeast with like poultry seasoning and stuff like that. So it's easy. So that my dry bouillon recipe, you don't have to do anything. You just put some stuff together and then you can just shake some of that into soups and stews. In my first dehydrator class, I did a hybrid kind of. So I took carrots, onions, celery. I think I did mushrooms, some other veggies, and I dehydrated them, ground them down, threw them in with some poultry spice and some nutritional yeast. So you can make it taste however you want, but it's slightly different in the same way different bouillon cubes taste different. But once you figure out what you like, you can tweak it and make it yours. Okay, that's all the bouillon talk I think
All right,
that we
bouillon
have.
talk done.
Yeah, this talk is really, I struggle with it because I get hungry. I'm
I
like,
haven't had
hang
anything
on,
to eat today.
We haven't
I'll be
eaten-
right back. I gotta go eat something.
We need to like eat lunch. Like I've eaten my oatmeal before, but Cheryl didn't make oatmeal last
Yeah,
night.
I was afraid that I'd blow a fuse if I
'Cause I had
added the
all
oatmeal to the
dehydrators.
dehydrator. So
Oh, you know what? That's interesting because my dehydrator, as you know, is still sitting in a box ready to be shipped to San Francisco. And I haven't had that experience of blowing a fuse yet. But I would say if it were going to happen, this apartment is a likely place because the wiring already is kind of the landlord. He's this older guy and he's in a retired, I think, handyman or something. And he likes to tinker around here. But I feel like some of the wiring is kind of rigged up.
Well, we
So-
don't like drop cords with
Yeah.
outside cords going across the
we have
house
to
and stuff.
keep stuff on different circuits because, like, oh,
It was not built. This house was not built for me. And one day when all of our stuff is paid off and all of that, I will
We
have
can't
the
run the-
wiring done.
we can't run the Breville air fryer and the microwave at the same time. It
oh,
trips a breaker
yeah.
every time.
Speaking of the Breville, so everybody doesn't know. So, I've got my Breville right over here, which is at eye level, which is the only place I've ever had it is on the counter. And when we saw Lisa's Thanksgiving class, if you haven't seen, you should go and watch it and follow her on YouTube because I told you to. Because you get lots of yummy stuff. And I noticed you had the Breville up high, right? And then you
But it
texted
is-
me.
But the control panel isn't too high. I don't have to look up.
Okay, because like what I did is so I looked over here because she's like, when you look at it, when you look up, is it gone? So I lowered myself a couple of feet. So I was like, oh my God, it goes away. So yeah, you can only see it from a certain place. And you said something I had never heard, which is you emailed them and they said, hey, if you can't see it, you can use the app. Did you use the app?
I haven't downloaded the app. I haven't downloaded the app yet, but I went into a rant when I read that because I'm like, because I was like all ready to email them back with like a video and everything. And David's like, I already sent them a video because if you look at it straight on level, you can't see anything. You have to look at it from an angle. And if you're at any distance from it, it's really difficult to see. So I'm thinking, I was thinking of like my mom and stepdad, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, they would never in a gazillion years be able to get an app to make the control board more visible. They're in their 80s, 90, So I'm like, why did they design it that way? Why didn't they just design it so you could see it? But then again, it's another one of those airplane situations where I'm like, the airfare is miraculous. So maybe that's just the thing they haven't perfected yet,
Well, Rill, who I don't think is on today, but who's often on, is visually impaired and had emailed me too, like, because some of the appliances I use just aren't friendly at all to visually. The more digital it is without actual things, the less helpful it is.
Absolutely.
Because we were talking about the Ninja Creamy, I think, and I was like, I don't know, because it's like there's a lot of buttons, just like on the Instant Pot. There are a lot of buttons, but they're not where you could see the sous vide from the slow cooker without actually reading it. And there's not hard stops, but there is actually a toaster oven, and I don't know if it's an air fryer too. I think it's a Black and Decker that's made specifically for visually impaired people. And she found something like that. So it was very curious about all these different things I hadn't thought about.
Well, I just thought of something while you were saying that, because I'm like, wow, that's got to be a challenge. Like, we really take that for granted that we can just see it. And if you are visually impaired, like something with like a braille or something you could feel, or even the manual and analog way we used to do things is easier. Like, wouldn't it be cool? Because I'm like, Breville's using an app. Well, what about if they made their apps for the visually impaired? And then all of us can use it. Like, I'm not visually impaired, but I am when it comes to using the Breville. So, like, what if they just made or if there were like a universal app for all of these kinds of appliances that people could use?
It would be
That'd be
interesting.
great.
Like I want to try and get the app. I'll see if it works with ours, or Cheryl can get the app.
I was just looking at because I was like, I don't think we can do the app.
I don't know if it has it for our model because we've had it for so long. But if it does, we can try it, because a lot of times within an app, they could make it real screen reader friendly. And it just
Yeah.
depends on if they are working on that level. Because when she asked me, I was just like talking about how I use it. And
Well, I was thinking more of like, you know, like you can get like a universal remote control that you can program to use with different TVs. Imagine if there were like a universal like remote for the visually impaired that you could have work with your appliances that like this. That'd be really cool if somebody invented that. I wish. See, I have these great ideas, but I don't know how to do anything.
I feel you. Apple says I don't have a mobile phone. No apps here. It's becoming an
Well,
access barrier. So there's another.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's true. Like it's always interesting because there's a lot of different ways to do everything, and it's almost impossible to make everything work for everybody.
that's a good point. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so it is interesting. And I think it really kind of goes all the way back to kind of what we started talking about like the holidays. I think some
yeah.
people make the holidays make them really happy. Like they get into this
Hmm.
good, happy space. And I just like decorations. That's why I love Halloween. I like Halloween too because it's a little spooky. You don't have a lot of like expectations. You just get to enjoy yourself, you know? And sometimes with the holidays, like we do things too. Like, oh, she's trying to get it now to see if it works.
No, this is just a
Um,
explore their products thing.
but in Tanglewood, which is like maybe an hour and a half away from our house, it's this beautiful park, like big giant park, and we drive through the lights there, and it's just so much fun. Like we
I
just
love that. There's the several cities around the country have some cool thing like that. Like I remember Austin, there's one street everyone goes to because of the lights. I love that.
and it's just fun. And so sometimes I think if you get to do a little bit of things like that,
Yeah.
it makes things more exciting. Whereas I think also in the back of my head is like, well, we don't go and see family usually for actual holidays, so our laundry list of all the stuff we put off all year should get done in this 4-day weekend. Like we do that a lot. I don't know if you guys do the whole Thanksgiving. I'm going to do everything I've ever thought of all year long.
I don't think I couldn't find it. I couldn't find an actual app that wasn't just a shopping app.
We might have to look
I'll
at
have
our
to look.
model.
Yeah, we
Or
should look on the email because maybe there's like a very specific link or something. I don't know.
ooh, if you can forward it to me,
Yeah.
we'll check it out and we'll tell you guys if it's even possible,
Okay.
or if it's just model specific. But the holidays I think can get really overwhelming, and if they're not overwhelming because you're too overpeopled or too lonely, sometimes I will then go and overplan, you know. And
I think
I
there's
don't.
some things that we can all do, um, just for in general, which is just don't. I think one of the worst things we could do is just hole up inside and feel like we're alone. Like, getting outside in the fresh air in the morning, even if it's, 10 below, but bundle up, get some sunlight on your face. Cause definitely just like the circadian rhythm and our sleep patterns can help with our mood and our ability to be more resilient during this time, our immune system, eating a whole food plant-based diet, things like that, getting out, moving. And then, definitely, like I said, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in a crowd of people, but just having some connection with others is also not just important mentally, but physically. Like working with Dr. Letterman and Dr. Polday, they really taught me about the physiological um, effects of isolation versus connection.
Mm-hmm.
And it impacts you, like eating bad food or doing things that aren't good for your body physically, to be isolated. It's one thing if you're, like, I need some alone time. That's different. That's good. Like alone time, I recognize I need to get away from everyone. I want to read a book. I want to go walk in nature by myself, or I just want to, whatever, watch a television show. But that's different. I'm talking about just feeling the feelings of isolation, like we all experienced during the pandemic. And that has a physiological impact on our body. So I think for me, it's just important for people to know that, so that they stay connected in some way to someone or some group or something, so that they don't suffer from the isolation,
Mm-hmm.
And I
and
love
knowing they're not.
something. Sorry about that. Because I think even just like taking a walk and things like that are so
Mhm.
important. And like I've been feeling very like ADHD, like I just completely just my just not regulated because
Mhm.
we did a little bit too much. And so sometimes if I do a little bit too much and I get a little too hungry and I get a little too tired and I keep going down that path that's not helpful for me, because I'm always like, oh, all I have to do is get to Thursday and then I'm good. And then Thursday is too far away. And then you're broken for a week. And literally for me, I have to put, sometimes I have to take a walk every day. I have to go lay down in our bedroom with the curtains closed and just read fiction. Like my brain
Mhm.
gets stuck on
Yeah,
things.
you need to give
And
it a rest.
right. And so I'm working on that, but then also kind of trying to maintain that. So if someone else out there gets kind of like, and Black Friday can really rile me up, even though it's a
Mm.
completely different situation. It riles my brain is thinking of 17 things. I've got 30 tabs open. Like, my brain is going fast, 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 and then it goes broken. And I would encourage you guys not to do that if you're able to. But also, if you know that it triggers you in any way, like as far as like, I feel lonely, I don't get space, I
Mhm.
just, there's just so many things that can set you off around this time of the year. Think of some of the few things that you can do, like have oatmeal ready when you wake up. And this is not a dig at you
No,
today
no,
because
I
I
know.
wouldn't have eaten it anyhow. There wasn't time. So there really, when we took a
Hint,
walk,
hint.
I made myself a big homemade soy milk maple latte that I took on my walk because
Mm.
that's enough to keep me from plummeting, for my blood sugar to cause issues for me.
I still haven't had
Sure.
anything to eat today. I got up and I had stuff for work I had to do right away, and it's just been like I haven't had any time to just go, okay, wait, let me stop and fix something to eat. So as soon as
And
we get done here, I'm probably gonna have to.
and I'm meeting a friend, so she doesn't know we're going to eat, but we're going to eat somewhere. That's
Go
a
make some oatmeal
non-negotiable.
right now, Cheryl.
Right? It's
Make some oatmeal.
non-negotiable. And and so I think sometimes it's just the littlest things. So like when I'm feeling my worst, and right now I'm telling you guys about my brain breaking a little bit, or being very tired. And that can happen for me too if I'm very lonely. Like when I moved
Mm.
here, When I moved to New Orleans, it was very hard for me. I don't need a lot of peopling time, but I need to know people are there to support me. Like for me,
Absolutely.
that's the big key. And then I can talk to people every 4 years and still feel just as connected with them as before. I'm that person. It
Yeah,
doesn't
same
mean
here.
that I won't be there for them, but like when my liver stuff happened and Faith went with us to get my biopsy, she's like, okay, so what day do we go walking every day? She's the only person with all that
Mm,
going on with me trying to change my lifestyle that was like, no, let's make this commitment that we do this every week. And we still do it months and months and
mm,
months later.
And you had a
that's
really hard
wonderful.
time with that too, because it was very emotional time for her and me, but
Well, they stuck a thing in and took a piece of my liver.
I
It
mean,
was
just
okay. It
just
wasn't
the
that big a deal.
emotions around that,
But
just the emotions around that of feeling so alone, feeling like, you know, if it was somebody else, you would have been the first person saying, "What can I bring you? What can I make you? What can we do to help you?"
I did feel
And
like some
and
people
you
that
felt isolated, that no one was like really reaching out.
yeah,
And
there were a couple of people that I thought were going to reach out a little more than they did. And I think they
mm.
just didn't know what to do. Um,
Well, I think
and
that's okay. So I'm like you, I'm the helper. And oftentimes I don't know how to allow people to help me. And also the people around me, because I'm the helper, think I'm so competent, I don't need any help.
that
It's
is what
and it's not
happens to me. Yes.
and it's not a conscious thing for them. They're just like assume I'm just fine because I'm always the one showing up and I'm never asking for help. I've got it all handled. That's the perception, right? So for
And
you and
we've
and
had
I,
arguments about that because
yeah,
she's like, "Well, you just always have everything just perfectly done," and I'm like, "No, I don't. I'm the one." Because you guys don't see this as much because, hello, it's the internet. But like when I'm overtired and when I say things like my brain breaks, that means like literally I could drop something on the floor and burst into tears. Like so and for me this and well the reason I'm using it specific to me because it could be slightly different for anybody else even if you relate to me. But if I push it up too far, it's just like me slamming my head in a
mm,
glass wall or something. It's like
mm,
one of this is going to give. And you've
yeah,
said to me
yeah,
early in our
I've
relationship, she's like, "Well, you're just fine. You're always fine." And I'm like, "Oh no, oh
well, I'm
no."
well,
like
so
she always puts off this strong,
Well, I'm strong.
yeah,
but still, but it
Yeah.
makes, but the confident that exudes kind of like makes me feel like, well, I'm just going to be in the way if I try to help,
exactly.
Hmm.
so, and then I don't do what I probably thought to do or should do because I'm like, I don't want to step on your toes or get in your way.
But I want to
So
go
good.
ahead. Oh,
No, I
I
was just
want.
gonna say a good exercise for you and I, Kathy, is to learn how to ask for help and not wait till we're like in the weeds.
I I feel like I'm pretty good. I'm definitely better than I used to be. For sure. Like I will ask for help, I will ask to borrow stuff, I will ask those sorts of things. And I want to give Cheryl a big praise because like I said last week, I was just not doing and it's not a depression. And there's nothing wrong if it is a depression. I've been depressed. But when my brain is like that, it's like it needs time to put itself back together. It's different than having this depression where because last week even I was like, okay, should I go back on Zoloft? And I was like, this doesn't feel like anything it would help. Do I need to go
Mm,
back to talk therapy? This doesn't feel like anything it is to help. And I'm 58 and a half, so I've gone through talk therapy. I've tried some different things. I've been depressed, so it's a little different than if I was 20 and wasn't sure and
right.
needed help figuring it out. But so I know usually what I need to do is try to bring it in, assault my brain less because I always have 30 tabs open. I'm always, if I'm always gathering all the information. And I started reading some fiction, started walking every day, starting laying down. And I spent like 18 hours in the bedroom. And I got up to have snackies and to go potty. And I gave myself this like dark space, read a fun book. I'd sleep when I wanted to sleep. And the next day after that, because I was still like, that would give me maybe a couple of hours out in the real world before I felt like something made my stomach drop. And she made the
Mm.
most beautiful dinner. So I had gotten some different things in the fridge, and she had just made me this perfect dinner. And
Aw.
it really helped a lot.
I can't even remember what it was. It was really
I had
simple.
gotten some fresh black-eyed peas
That's
with
it.
greens
It was the
when I went
black-eyed
to the
peas and
Raleigh
stuff.
Farmers Market. You made rice. You made
Green
made
beans,
green
black-eyed,
beans,
the black-eyed peas,
and you made something else too.
corn
But
on the cob.
yeah, I mean, it
Ooh.
was just so
That is
lovely.
that is wonderful. Food is my love language. So I appreciate the love that went into that.
Yeah, and it was just so because I know she doesn't always feel comfortable in the kitchen, so that made it more special. So
Of
if anybody's
course.
out there and feel like maybe you have a friend that you feel like is always on top of it, take a look for something that you know they enjoy, and just that's a great gift from Faith was just I'm going to walk every week with you while you're trying to get healthier, because I had already been starting to do the Peloton
Hmm.
and doing some of that stuff, and it's been really great too, because we haven't been as close as we are now for a long time, because we just would see each other a couple times a year, and now we see each other every week, and it's
And
Well,
they
the
went to
great
the
thing
Ren
about that
Festival with
too is
us.
when you have like a buddy, it's you're accountable to someone else. It's not even having to be a conscious thing, but you don't want to let them down. So it's forcing you to do the thing that you want to do. So I always recommend that. Like schedule a time with someone to go for that walk, which is what you're doing, because then you're going to be more likely to show up than if you just put it on your calendar. I'm going to walk for 30 minutes, right? If you're meeting Faith for 30 minutes, then you feel accountable to her too.
yeah, it's very true. And Apple has something to say about loneliness, and well, actually, a few people. Barbara said it's a very difficult time of the year for her, and Apple said loneliness is absolutely detrimental to one's health and well-being. I had a heart attack last year, and I don't have any cardiovascular disease. My doctor
Mm,
said it was caused by my social isolation. And
mm.
she's disabled and housebound, and that's why she appreciates these online gatherings. And Apple, you have your own online gatherings as well. I forget what it's called. If you put it in here, I'll make sure to put it up. But she with another person does these like kind of you gather online and you can craft or work on whatever you're working on.
See, that's incredible. So she's creating community, and that's the whole thing. That's the the beauty and the power, and what makes this so cool that Kathy, that you've created this community. It doesn't matter what your community looks like. Like I said, it could be one person, it could be online, it could be your yoga class or your Al-Anon meeting or whatever. But it's just important. I think the point is that we're making here is that it's important to connect when you're feeling if you're feeling and when you're feeling isolated or lonely or sad and feel like you don't have support.
I
Because
think a great. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's okay. I'll just keep talking. So you talk.
I was just going to say a great example of what you're saying is like happened to us last week. Like we were, we had that whole chat where we were just being honest with people about how we felt and that it
Which was
wasn't
not
great.
great.
It was not great. We were having a horrible time. And then Thursday, it got to be late in the afternoon, and we were kind of like, we should really go to the Indian buffet and give our support and make sure, that we see people
Because we
there.
want this to
We
continue.
want it to keep happening for people and for the community, but then we were like, we really don't want to be around people. So what we decided to do was to go early when it first opened, so we could just kind of sit by ourselves, eat, and get out of there.
If we wanted to, if I
If
felt,
we,
because it was more me that was getting
yeah,
super overwhelmed by everything. Like literally, if I'm in that space, I can open up my computer, and if I feel like someone is kind of poking me on an email, that can take me down.
yeah.
Like
So
it's ridiculous how crumbly
yeah.
I get when I'm not normally that way.
So
Right.
everybody that goes there from the Chapel Hill Plant Pure Pod, they get a big table in the back, and everybody usually sits together, and we'll sit with them because we're members of that
And
pod.
they're lovely.
Yeah, and but every one of them would they knew what was going on because they had seen our lives and stuff, and so they would come up and they would just be like, just wanted to say hey, if you want to sit with us, that's cool. If not, it's cool. And everybody
then they
was
just go away.
and they
Like-
just went away, and they didn't bother us, and then everybody would just kind of say hey, and then they'd go away and not bother us.
And it was so respectful
Yeah.
and lovely for me in feeling in this time where it was it's not usually easy to invade me, and I'm like a big hugger and stuff, but like anything could set me off, and they were so lovely.
So lovely. So we went to go say goodbye
And so we went
to
back
everybody
to the table,
because we thought it would be rude just to get up and leave. So with everybody
Sure.
being so gracious to us, so we went back there just to say bye to everybody and to talk about possibly going to the pod meeting. And the next thing we knew, we were there for 3 hours because they were just like
created this beautiful space.
the space for us, and everybody just it was just it was fantastic.
It
And
really,
it really lifted us up.
it really,
Oh my
really
gosh.
did. And,
That's a
and we-
beautiful. Well, that's a great example, though. See, you were in a headspace that that's really interesting because I've had that experience where I'm like, ugh, like I've hemmed and hawed. I'm like, I can't believe I committed to this thing. I just want to be alone. I want to stay home in my jammies and read my book. But then that happens. Then you go and you're like, oh, I feel so full and filled up and supported and loved. And this was so nourishing. And and just comparing to how I felt before I went. So that's really important to know that could change like that for you.
Well, and it's interesting, and it just really made me appreciate how thoughtful they were. And I think that when I'm in that space, often I feel like no one is thoughtful. That's one of the things that the untruths that I'm starting to believe. Because most people do care. Most people don't do things to me or think about me on purpose like that. Like I am a public person, so sometimes people will lash out and I'll be like, yes, there are ads on my blog. I'm not sure why you're emailing me about this. And then come to find out their friend has been in the hospital, right? It has nothing to do with me. So most of the time, in general, when people do something crappy, it really doesn't have anything to do with me anyhow.
No, it
But
doesn't.
just when someone is really thinking of you, though, it's so powerful, even if it is like what we're talking about now, because like there are a few people who, have trouble asking for help or having trouble during this time of the year. And all it takes is reaching out to some of your friends, if you're that person or not, and just saying, hi, I just wanted you to know I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
So it can mean the world. It really
Well, and I think, and the thing about that is you'd be surprised that other person is going through. I mean, I think the thing is that we're all having this experience and we don't even realize how shared this experience is. So when you reach out to that person and you're checking on them, but it's really for yourself, the truth is they're probably feeling the same way you are, and it really means a lot to them too. So that's a beautiful example right there.
Yeah, and
In other words, we're not alone.
It's true. At least it's saying they had to shut the lights off on us, and
They
they really
did.
did at the restaurant.
They were like running us
so
out.
we sort of got all the way out, and then they took the
Turned the-
porch
They
light
turned
off.
the outside lights off on us because we were still standing outside talking. So
That is very funny. I love that image. That you're just there soaking it all up and the lights are going dim.
yeah.
But there's so much care out there if you can accept it. So like I'm seeing other people like Diana say, it's hard for me to ask for help. I feel like I bother people. And I do understand that. And over my life, some things are a lot easier for me to ask for help with than others. Like I am not handy. Like, so when I lived in New Orleans, 2 of my friends actually did all the handy person stuff around my apartment. I cooked for them. I'm a good trader. But when I was thinking of buying a house there, I sat them down and talked to them because I was like, how are you guys going to feel about helping me do something if I get
Yeah.
a house because
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
capable. So over that time, I learned to be really good about saying, hey, I need help with X. Can you help me with
Mhm.
that? And those I'm pretty good about. But like with me not being 100% emotionally this past week, I
Mhm.
at Halloween for the witchy book I want to do, I bought some witchy clothes at Torrid and some pants at J. Jill. So I reopened those credit cards, which is not a big deal, except I'm not going to pay them because they're not all in my auto pay, right? It has no, I want to give them the money. And sometimes they make it really hard for you to give the money to them. I have even in the past
That's on them.
gone to a store to pay the bill in the store because I could not get into my account. And I pay everything else. I
Yeah.
pay online. So it's not like I'm incompetent, but I was like, it felt like literally it was going to kill me to sign back up for these two cards. And so I said, Cheryl, is there any way you would consider doing it? And it was hard for me to ask that because I take care of all of my other money things. And in
Mhm.
fact, though, it took her an hour and a half to do it because it is that hard. Like in my mind, I'm like, you're just
I
stupid.
had to
That's why you
make
can't do it.
2 phone calls. Two
Well, I
phone
think,
calls to try to
well, and
give
I
these
think
people
so.
money.
But I think that I think it's good to be aware, but in terms of feeling like a bother, you'd be surprised how much that is in our own head. And there's a way to say, like, hey, do you have, 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes to have a chat or a coffee, or ways to, you'd be surprised how much more people are available than you think, and you're not a bother, because I'm one of those people who I don't ask for help. And I had to learn the hard way when I was pregnant. I was teaching prenatal yoga. Everyone's like, oh, you're going to pop that baby out. You're going to be like this active mom. And guess what? I had 53 hours of labor.
Oh,
I went from birthing in a tub at home to a labor and delivery room at the hospital. I was in labor 53 hours. It took 3 hours to push out my big baby, and they sent me for an MRI after because I couldn't walk. So here's this yogi who everyone's like, you're going to just bounce right back. And guess what? I went home and I had to have physical therapy. I had a very large baby. I was 40 years old. And so what that lesson for me was, I had to let people help me. I had to sit in a
Mm.
chair. They sent me home with a walker. My baby, I got to hold my baby, but if I had to do anything, somebody else had to take him while I got my walker and did things. But people had to help me. They had to cook for me. They had to help me with things. And that was a real lesson. I'm like, wow, I had to come to this to allow people to help me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it was a real lesson, and it was such a blessing. Like, I feel like the universe sort of conspired to allow me to let people in to do things for me that they really wanted to do, but I wouldn't have otherwise let them. So you'd be surprised. They were happy. Like my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law and my friends showed up with food, and they wanted to, they cleaned the kitchen, and David's friend Alan, who's a single older guy, came over with a panini press and made sandwiches, and it just made them so happy to help me.
right.
I
Yes.
was like, oh wow, this feels good.
I'll be right back. I just scraped a scab. Oh,
Hey
bless
Kathy, I have to go because I've got that
Yeah.
podcast.
you. Okay. So there's
Um,
all kinds of things on the side, and I think these lives help a lot. I find when I'm home all day and pop onto one of them, they brighten my day.
It's great.
And it's fullywoven.com is Apple's site if you guys want to come and join those online gatherings. I've been real close. Ronnie
I've
says I
been
rarely.
following I've been following Apple on Instagram, and I love Apple's creations.
Right? It's gorgeous. I'm like, yeah. I'm just Apple. You're just really magical. I don't know if enough people are telling you that, but
Yep.
you are truly like this bright, magical,
All
sparkly
these
thing
people are
in my life.
magical. I was
Yeah.
telling,
It's true.
Barbara was on my my live, and I was telling what an inspiration Barbara was to me when she told me the story of her house being ruined by the tornado and how she was still making all this plant-based food in a room without a kitchen. Like everyone here is doing pretty amazing thing, and just I'm very touched by this community, Kathy, that you and Cheryl have created. It's a wonderful community of people, real
No,
people.
and yeah, I agree. And Apple even says we're an incredible community. Apple said, "Oh my goodness, this Apple Love Fest is doing me good. I'm glad it is." And one last thing, Lisa made such a good point about the perception of helpers having it all together and not needing any support, and that's resonating loudly. That is also Apple. Well, you and I will talk. I know we're going to do something on Thursday, but if you want to do something on Wednesday, we could too.
Yeah, let's hop on Wednesday, because I was thinking, we could both be in the kitchen talking about food and things, and
Just
that'd be
hanging
fun.
out. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that sounds good. But
I'll hang
how
out
do
anytime.
me too. I know Cheryl was even saying that she wishes you guys were a lot closer because
Yeah.
we would hang out a lot more.
David and I say that all the time. Wah.
I know.
Well, we'll just have to visit for now.
Well, I might get my first trip to San Francisco. So
Yay! Yay! All right, y'all. It's wonderful
Okay.
to see you, and I'm going to go do this podcast interview, and hopefully before the end of the year, we'll actually have them someplace where people can listen.
That'll be
that's
great.
awesome.
Hopefully.
All
Okay.
right. Well, I will talk to you next week, and you guys, I'll be popping
Big
on
love.
some point in the
Yeah.
weekend, I think. Okay.
Okay.
So
All
we'll
right.
see you
Big
guys
See you
love,
guys.
soon.
everyone.
Big,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.